this works. I hope to death that this works. I don't see anybody coming in the comments. So, okay, so I'm kind of previously recording this little thing here today because unfortunately, I shared this story on my channel over the course of a few videos. 3 days ago, it started. I I went to see my grandmother, who I haven't seen in a little while, and I knew that there was something going on with her. I was told by my cousin, my uncle, that was something was going on with her. Okay, ever since my mom passed away, she just hasn't been the same. She's in her 90s. I mean, she was doing pretty good, and she had really nothing wrong with her up until that point, except for the occasional forgetting words and stuff like that. Nothing crazy. She was still able to hold, very conversations and stuff. Sometimes her hearing was a little bit hard, but pretty much that's it, right? So, so I didn't know. During that time, my grandmother fell. She was taking her garbage out, and she walked up to the dumpster, and she swung the bag into the dumpster. She lives in like a little complex for people that are 50 and over. So after she threw the bag in the garbage, she realized that she didn't like tie it or put a twisty thing on it. I don't know which one she uses, but she went back into the dumpster and she tried to retrieve the garbage, and then she ended up falling backwards, hit her head, and broke her hip. So I think that was about 2 years ago. She ended up in the hospital, and I'm sure she had, like she was in bad condition. We didn't think she was going to get through this one. I mean, she's 94. She broke her hip. I believe she fractured her skull. I'm not even 100% sure how that went down. Hold on one second. And so, it was pretty scary. My Nana just seems to be like a cat who has 9 lives. I mean, she just hurts herself, and then she always gets back up. It's crazy. She always gets better. I mean, I went to go see her in the hospital, and I really wasn't expecting her to get better after I left the hospital. But sure enough, she got well enough to go home, but things had to start changing. They had to watch over her more. They needed a nurse to take care of her and all this other stuff. So now she has this full-time nurse with her, and whatever. So in the last year, I guess, since that happened, I was told that my grandmother was diagnosed with dementia. So to me, dementia is just dementia in and of itself isn't the worst thing that you could be diagnosed with. I mean, you could get it for several reasons. You could slip and fall and, injure your head, or, it could be from drugs, or it could be from old age, it could be from many different things. So I'm not expecting it to get, much worse, but there was hope in my mind that it could get better, maybe as she healed more and everything like that. So I'm under the impression that that's all's wrong with her, and otherwise she's fine, except for, stupid little things here and there, like her hearing and her sight. Not that they're stupid and meaningless, just meaning that they're not as important, I guess, as your memory. So the other day, it had been months. It's been a pretty long stretch of time since I went and saw my Nana, okay? I have a kid. I'm home all day. Yes, I'm home all day, but, her house is over a half hour away. On a good day, it's a half hour, but most of the time, it takes me at least 40 to 45 minutes getting there, if I have to stop for gas or whatever. So it's not like it's right around the corner for me, okay? It takes a little time for me to get there. And, my son gets off the bus. My husband's not home from work. So I always have to be home at a certain time or leave at a certain time. So it's kind of a pain in the ass, to get there. Plus, there's another reason. If you guys have followed this series, then you know that I don't talk to pretty much, most of my aunts and uncles. And specifically the aunts that take care of my grandmother, because, those are the ones that I had the issues with. So there's no real communication with them, and I don't really feel comfortable going to see my grandmother by myself on my own. So my cousin, who lives upstate, and she also has, 2 kids, and, she doesn't have that much help. She's home, but again, it's very hard for her to get down here too. And so, I feel comfortable when she comes. So, in order for her and I to be able to align our schedules, it takes a lot, But we finally did make it out there the other day, and I explained this in the live. while I was at my grandmother's house, I noticed this folder that said something like, please read me. And, there's some information in there or whatever. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to write them down or add them or some shit like that, right? So I'm like looking at it and I'm like, it's my aunt's handwriting, one of my aunts. And I'm looking at it and I'm like there's all flowers, drawn all over the place. And I'm just like, that's weird. What's in this folder, So I point it out to my cousin and she picks it up and we open it up and it says Alzheimer's disease. It's this whole big packet, like this pamphlet. And we're like, I look at her and she looks at me and I'm like, I didn't know that that's what Nana had. She's like, me neither. It's the first time I'm hearing it. I'm like, that's pretty interesting. So my cousin turns to the nurse that was sitting right there and she's like, is that what she has? Like, does she have Alzheimer's? She's like, yeah, that's what she has. She's like, well, do you know where she's at with it? And the woman tells my cousin that she's in stage 4. I don't know how many stages there are, but usually stage 4 is pretty much like the worst, right? And I'm like, wow, wow. I was pretty shocked to find that out because I know that dementia is one thing, but Alzheimer's is a lot more serious to me of a diagnosis. Okay. Dementia is a symptom. It's a name for a set of symptoms, right? But Alzheimer's disease is a incurable, or is it uncurable? I think it's incurable, irreversible, terminal illness, and had I known that, I might have made it a point to try to go see my grandmother way more often than I have. I didn't realize how rapidly she was declining from that point on. Like the last time I saw her and then now, it was a pretty big difference. So whatever, we had a great visit with my grandmother. And when I left, I got in my car and, I was like, I couldn't call my husband because he was at work, and I don't really want to, I don't have like friends that I talk to about this shit. So I decided to fire up a live here on YouTube and discuss what just happened, what I just found out. So I talked about it a little bit, and how surprised I was and the fact that nobody knew about it and just like my mind was blown and whatever. Then I started talking about something else. It was only 4 minutes of the video, 4 minutes that I was talking about this. Then I did another live when I got home a little later. That was short. It was probably only a half hour, just trying to kill time in between me having to be somewhere. And so, I talked a little bit more about it, but nothing crazy. I did, I did insult my aunt and say that she half-ass takes care of my grandmother, which in my honest opinion is true. I'm sorry. And I'm allowed to have that opinion. For instance, when my mom first died, my grandmother had told me that she was sick of my aunt watching her taking a bath every time or shower every time. And so while I was at her house, I ordered things like a bar that you could steady yourself with and an anti-slip mat and all this stuff for her tub so that hopefully, she could have a little bit of privacy because when you're that old and everything is starting to go and, things are being, your freedom's being taken away from you, you want, the last thing you have left is your dignity, And so, I just wanted to help her out. And she had this little walker and I watched her walking with it and it was getting stuck. So, I bought her little tennis balls, like little hot pink ones. So they matched her, her personality. And I, helped her out in that way. Not saying that my aunt doesn't take care of her. My aunt takes very good care of her, and I will give her credit for that. She does take her to the doctor's appointments and stuff in that sense, but she just doesn't go the extra mile, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But she does take care of her in a sense, right? I mean, she has kind of no choice because, well, she shouldn't have no choice because there's 5 other siblings, but, it is what it is. Well, 4, not counting her, sorry. Or my mom. So anyway, fine. Okay. The next day I get this phone call and I'm told that my aunt wanted my uncle to relay a message to me. And the message that was relayed to me by my cousin, so it came from my uncle to my cousin to me. Okay. Or rather it came from my aunt to my uncle. Hold on. Oh, it came from my aunt. to my uncle, and then to my cousin, and then to me. So, it was a little, could have gotten a little mixed up, but I don't think it did. Basically, what the message was, well, first they were saying that I wasn't allowed to go to my grandmother's house anymore, and then it changed to, well, you could go, but it has to be supervised. And I'm thinking, well, there's already a camera in the apartment. I'm like, how insulting. I don't even know why I'm explaining this. How insulting is that, really? I mean, I did nothing wrong when I went over there. I looked at a folder. Does that like make me a bad person? I looked on a folder that said on the cover, please read me, and feel free to ask suggestions. Excuse me. So I didn't think I did anything necessarily wrong. So they were making a big deal about it and whatnot, right? The next day, I get a letter from one of my mom's brothers, and he's the oldest brother, and he kind of like, I guess, was trying to tell me, like, don't curse as much, and this and that. You'll get your message across, because they're all blown up about these videos that I've been making, okay? My grief series that I talk about. And so, I was a little offended by it, because I'm like, he doesn't call me to say, like, hello, or, that he doesn't send me, or my son for that matter, birthday cards. I don't get a phone call for my birthday. And they're like, now you're going to sit here and worry about my YouTube videos. Like, I just don't understand it. Even for my aunt called him and got him all pissed off because she was all crazy that I guess that I said Alzheimer's. It must have insulted her in some way. I don't know. So she called up everybody and she's making a big fucking deal about it. What else is new? So I'm a little bit kind of confused, but it is what it is. So that's fine. I wrote back to him, and he really didn't have much to say after that, which is typical of my mom's family, because once you disagree with them, they either stop talking to you or they get very nasty. He basically kind of in a sense stopped talking to me, and it's kind of insulting. He gave me like a 2-sentence answer, and I was just like, wow, this is kind of fucked up. So then it's just so crazy. This morning I'm sleeping. My husband brought my son to hockey, and then when they came back, my husband wakes me up, and the first thing he says to me, he turns and says, is that he talked to my Aunt Debbie, for those of you guys who follow this series. And I'm like, I'm half asleep, and I'm like, am I fucking still dreaming? Like, what is going on right now? Like, what is going on right now? And then I guess about 5 minutes, he told me she texted him. And then I guess after a couple of minutes, I kind of got pissed off, because I'm thinking, I thought we've discussed this before, to just like ignore them and, don't play into their bullshit, basically, that kind of thing. Don't fall into their bullshit. So, my husband chose to call her for whatever reason after he received this text message. They get into this whole, conversation. I didn't know exactly what happened, because my husband's not the best at recalling some stuff, information like that. But needless to say, he was probably trying to stick up for me. Because, he lived all this shit with me. He saw it all, and so he's trying to speak on my behalf to explain to my family that, I'm trying to just do the best I can, basically, given the circumstances. So I asked my husband a little later on, what prompted her to, like, what did she say to you in these texts that she sent you? So what he does is he sends me this text. He tells me this text. It's a screenshot of a comment under one of the YouTube videos from my uncle. And my aunt, when she sent it, she sent the screenshot of his comment. And then underneath it, she wrote something to the effect of, I'm trying to think, something to the effect of, hold on, let me just take some water. Something to the effect of, like, I think you should know about this. I thought you should know about this, get her help or some shit. And I'm like, here we go again, the fucking help thing. This is a very, very common thing that comes out of her fucking mouth. My brother reads me my uncle's text message, right? And at first it didn't really register. And I'm like, all right, let me go back. I want to look at it again. I'm going to read it off of my phone. And I realized that the comment isn't even in my comment section at this point, because I have certain names blocked out of my comments. And one of the things I blocked was my last name. and my maiden name. And so the comment didn't show up on YouTube, but I got the notification that there was a comment left. It just didn't show up on YouTube because it's in my blocked words. So the comment got blocked. And so I sit here and I read the comment. This is from my mom's youngest, and I'm gonna read it to you guys real quick. So let me just change change the screen here for a moment. Stop sharing. Hold on a second. Is that it? That's it. Okay. Okay, so my uncle leaves this comment and he says, Leanna made a name, and he puts in parentheses, makeup mobster. Why he needed to put my name there, I don't know, but whatever, right? So he says, this is your uncle. I am blown away by the bullshit you are spewing out on YouTube. And then he put question marks. I'm not really sure why. So he says, there's two sides to every story. You continually berate this family. What infuriates me is going on social media, and then he writes in parentheses, for attention, and discloses personal medical information about my mother without this family's permission. And I'm like sitting there going, am I missing something here? Isn't that my grandmother too? So why do I need anybody's permission to talk about my grandmother and what's going on with her? But you'll see how hypocritical this all gets, okay? So he writes, have you heard of HIPAA? It's a law. So then he writes, I've kept quiet about your previous immature rants, but now you crossed the line. You go into my mother's house, in parentheses, to visit. I mean, why do you even have to say that? That kind of goes without saying. And start to go through her personal property. And then he puts his, the computer, which it wasn't a computer, it was an iPad. The informational folder was meant for visitors to understand the person in front of them, for caretakers and relatives. I'm glad that you read that. Okay, let me just get this one off here, and so we could do the next one. The next part is bullshit. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All right. Oop, I should have zoomed in a little bit more. I cut off a little piece. I don't know. I think he said something. What is your point? What is your purpose of doing this? And he says, it obviously won't mend fences. Your constant rants has now changed the way I feel about you. Yes, that's right. You will now add Uncle PJ. Whoops. Sorry. Forgot to take your name out of there. To your novels. Well, PJ's not really identifying, I guess. To your novels. My sister, your mother, Carol, would have been very disappointed by your antics. And yes, your Nana talks very much about your mother all of the time, but you wouldn't know because you choose not to go there. And then he goes and proceeds to tell me that there are no rules for your visits, for you to visit Nana. And he writes in parentheses again, as you state. Well, there are rules. My aunt said that I can't go there, and if I do, it has to be supervised. So he says, she is your Nana, and if your purpose is to spend time with her, then by all means visit. But don't do it with ulterior motives. Like, what? What are you talking about, dude? I know that this family is not perfect. I've been through some serious shit. You sure have. I'm not perfect. And then he writes in parentheses, I'm sure that your audience will find out if they don't already know. And then he writes, but I chose to put it behind me, move forward, and forgive. This is the family that God chose for me, and I experienced a great life growing up with them. My recommendation to you is that you knock off this bullshit, grow up, and concentrate on making yourself better for your family, the people that are currently still in your life. So after reading that, I'm just like, dude, this is why I don't go there. This is a big part of why I don't go there, because I removed myself from this toxic situation and these toxic people for a reason. I have less anxiety. I'm happier. I feel better. It's just, my life is better in every way by not having to deal with these types of people. Okay. I just couldn't believe that he wrote that. Now, this particular uncle, has been very quiet. And there was a point in time where he was kind of outed from our family. And then what ended up happening was he got divorced, and then his kids stopped talking to him. It was a very serious situation that I'm not going to get into, but it was a very serious situation. And so both of his daughters don't talk to him. And I'm sitting around here and I'm thinking, all right, here's the first thing, right? My uncle has not reached out to me in well over a year. Well over a year. Looking at our messages on Facebook, he hasn't messaged me. Well, the last message that we had was me messaging him a happy Father's Day. What was it? June 2018. Okay. It's quite a while ago. It's like over a year and a half ago, you know? So I'm like, why are you watching my YouTube videos? What are any of these people really doing on my YouTube videos, given the fact that they have, basically blocked me on every form of social media. And even their phones. So, like, you obviously don't want to communicate with me. You don't care to know how my life is. You don't care to know what's going on in my life. You don't care to know how I'm doing, or how my son's doing, or how my husband's doing. You don't pick up the phone. You don't invite me over for holidays or dinners or anything like that. No birthday calls, nothing, right? So why are you at my YouTube page? I can't understand that. So I want to go back to his letter for a second because I think it's important for you guys to understand this, okay? Let's go back to this first part here. All right. Oh, shit. You know what? I think I skipped a chunk of this because I had it zoomed in. Shit, I did. Oh, my God. All right, let's just read this again because I obviously skipped a huge chunk of it. So, and I'm going to pause while I'm reading it this time. So he says he's blown away by the bullshit you were spewing. I'm blown away by the bullshit that you were spewing out on YouTube. There's two sides to every story. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop right there. First of all, this specific uncle has not watched my videos. I was told that he did not watch my videos. There was also a message that went out that I actually showed in one of my last videos that about the fact that, oh my God, I'm like brain farting over here. Hold on. I can't think of what I was just going to say. This is horrible because I can't edit it. So I can't edit out my brain farts. There's two sides of every story. You continually berate this family. Oh, okay. So he admits that he pretty much admitted, but in these texts, that he hasn't watched the videos and that he doesn't want to share his opinion about them. And that's fine. But if that's the case, how do you know that what I'm saying is bullshit? Is that because my Aunt Debbie told you that it was bullshit? Or is it because it's actual bullshit? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or do you actually think that? Because if you do, that's bullshit because you didn't even watch them. Okay? So how do you even know what's being said in there? My aunt has a tendency to twist things. So he writes, there's two sides to every story. You continually berate this family. Really? Okay. First of all, I haven't made a video in months, okay, about them. And second of all, I have a right to talk about what goes on in my life. So sorry about that. So he writes, what infuriates me is you going on social media, then he puts in parentheses, for attention, as if he even knows why I'm doing this, and discloses personal medical information about my mother without this family's permission. Have you heard of HIPAA? So, okay, first of all, he has no idea if I'm actually going on here for attention. He doesn't know what my motive is. He's not in my brain. He doesn't know what I'm thinking when I'm making these videos. And I'll tell you guys that when I started making these videos, of course, it was a struggle. I was thinking back and forth. I had made one or two videos way back in the day about what happened with my brother and his wedding, and all that bullshit. And people asked me to continue the story. So I did. And then the more and more I continued it, the more and more followers I started to get. And the more people that started to become interested in it. And the more people that, I started getting emails and I was reading the comments and like so many people are thanking me for helping them and, sharing my story or telling me that they could relate in some way. And I've formed a lot of friendships and bonds with people, because of these videos. They've been very therapeutic for me. And that was one of the things that I thought about before I started putting this grief series out there was that like, if I'm only, if I'm only going to do this, to just tell my story, then that's kind of pointless, something good has to come out of it. Like I have to include a message in it, or I have to educate people about certain things, and then in that sense, then it'll be helping somebody. And then it's me making a positive out of a negative, taking a shitty nightmare situation and turning it into something that's, positive and that helps others and that helps myself too. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So, he talks about the HIPAA law. I already said that before, that, it's not, he doesn't understand HIPAA laws. Okay. So he writes, I've kept quiet about your previous immature rants, but now you've crossed the line. Well, you know why I crossed the line this time? Because I happened to mention him in my last video. That's why I crossed the line. So now he cares because I mentioned him. And what I said about him was that he he said that I needed help, right? Told me she needs help or something's wrong with her or something. That's what he said. He said, oh, I feel bad and all, but something's wrong with her. So I'm like, I went on Facebook and just unfriended him because I'm like, you know what? If you really think that, first of all, if you really think that I need help and there's something wrong with me, why wouldn't you reach out to me then? If you gave a shit, that's what you would do. That's what most people do. If they see somebody struggling in life or going through something, they reach out to them and they extend the hand and they offer help and support and guidance or whatever. He has not done any of that at all. At all. So, your actions and your words are completely contradicting themselves. It's unbelievable. So he says, I crossed the line. Okay, you go into my mother's house to visit and then start to go through her personal computer property. First of all, I did pick up her iPad because she asked me to. When I actually picked it up several times. Twice I think she asked me. One time I wanted to look and see if, I could find her iCloud email address because I would love to be able to FaceTime her with my son, because this is like a lot easier than having to go visit her. At least I could see her that way. Because then also I've been blocked by her Facebook because of my aunt. So I can't even see pictures of her. So, anyway, hold on. So me going through her property, I have her permission, dude. My grandmother knows. And second of all, I'm the one who actually set up my grandmother's Wi-Fi, okay? Showed her how to use the computer, made her Facebook profile, put her on Facebook, showed her how to use it, etc., etc. And now you're going to treat me like I'm some type of criminal and I'm going through my grandmother's personal property? I mean, are you fucking kidding me? So he gets into the whole thing about the folder, which I'm just going to skip. All you need to do is look up dementia. Here's a, okay. I think I skipped this part the first time, so I will read that again. I'm sorry. So he says the informational folder was meant for visitors to understand the person that is in front of them, for caretakers and relatives. I'm glad that you read that. Dementia is a form of Alzheimer's, which you also knew that she had, and if you didn't, shame on you. All you need to do is look up dementia on the internet to find out that information. Okay, so let's pause there again. Dementia is not a form, quote unquote, of Alzheimer's. What's a form of it's a symptom of Alzheimer's. It's just one of the many symptoms. Dementia, again, is a list of symptoms that, have something to do with your brain. Okay. Alzheimer's is a terminal illness that you cannot cure. Dementia, in a lot of cases, can be cured. Okay. Or in some cases. And it's not deadly. It can be reversed. Okay. So anyway, so it's total bullshit. And then the funniest, most ironic part about this is that he's saying all you need to do is look up dementia on the internet to find out that information. So I did do that. And I'm going to share that with you guys. Hold on one second. You know what? I forgot to send off this one. And I'm going to do just that so you guys can see for yourselves. Hold on a second. What the hell is going on here? I need all these. One moment. Come on. There we go. Oop. Okay. I just want to show you guys this. What the heck is that? Okay. Okay. All right. Hold on a moment. So, just gotta wait for this to open. That's not it. Hold on a second. That's not what I was trying to send. Why does it have two photos? I only want one. How did this happen? Hold on. Oh my god, this is the worst part about doing this on my live on the same platform I live stream on is because I cannot edit it. And hold on, guys. All right. I don't want this picture selected. I don't know why it is. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So I'm talking about the differences between dementia and Alzheimer's, right? What the fuck? Oh my god. Why does this keep doing this? I don't want this on here. Hold on a second. I don't know what the heck's going on and it keeps closed. Oh my god, I hate computers. Okay. Okay, so let me share this with you guys. I'm going to stop that for a moment and I'm going to put up a different one just for a minute. Too bad you can't show more than one on this. So anyway, it says dementia versus Alzheimer's. Dementia is a term used to address a collection of symptoms. Alzheimer's disease is one of the commonest cures for its occurrence. So for dementia, right? Some forms of dementia are known to be temporary, reversible, and cured with proper and timely medication. Alzheimer's is a terminal disease which cannot be reversed or cured, although they are symptomatic treatments and supportive measures. Okay. Then it says a person could get dementia during any stage of life. Alzheimer's disease is more likely to occur in elderly ages. Okay. So he's completely instructing me to go look it up online and see that it's the same exact thing. And so I knew it wasn't. And that's why I did look it up because, again, it's just unbelievable. It's like, you don't even know, you didn't even look it up. You tell me to look it up, but you didn't even look it up yourself. I mean, are you kidding me right now? So, okay, let me move that. All right, where's the rest of this? Okay. So anyway, he says, I really tried to get through all the hypocrisy in this video, but unfortunately, I only made it through 30 plus minutes and found out that unfortunately, and here's the best part, okay? Unfortunately, right there, boom. You need some serious help, okay? Let me just keep going. Hold on. I seriously feel bad for Jesse. That's my son, and he doesn't even know how to spell his name. And Chris. Your problem will affect them.
I missed that.
Whoa.
Could you say it again, please?
Why are you talking, Siri? No. I seriously feel bad for Jesse and Chris. Your problem will affect them in the long run. Okay, so we're going to stop there once again. This right here is total and utter bullshit. It's gaslighting at its finest, okay? I wrote back to him and I pointed this out when I wrote back to him, okay? Me sharing my story, just simply sharing my story on YouTube and talking about my life does not mean that there is something wrong with me and I need to go get help, okay? Even if I did need to get help, do you think this is an appropriate way to tell me? So I'm like, wow, that's kind of messed up. And then to say he feels bad for Jesse and my husband. So I'm like, this is just crazy and it's going to affect me. So now I'm going to just stop there and I want to show you guys. Hold on a second. I want to show you something else here. I think this is it. Share screen. Hold on. There we go. Just mute for one moment. Okay, so you see what it says over here? It's telling you that gaslighting is what it sounds like, okay? And there's things like you're overreacting, and then look, right there, you need help. There it is. You need help, okay? You're so dramatic. That was another thing he used on me in a different comment. So, all right. Never said that. I was just joking. Okay. So, you guys see all the different examples of phrases that are used to gaslight you. Let me just show you guys. Hold on a second. Here's another example. Let's get to it. Let me show you guys. Okay. Gaslighting is an abusive tactic used to cause someone to doubt their own feelings, memory, and sanity. This was done to me for a really long time. Before I get there, let me just read the rest. It says it can sound like it's all in your head, you're being dramatic, you're making things up, you're crazy, that never happened. Okay. So I want to continue to read what he wrote to me so we could see how exactly this is gaslighting. Here's a big one there. Hold on a second. Where'd it go? Is that it? So, did I close it? Oh, Lord. I think it did. Hold on. Let me grab it again. I guess I closed it. There it is. Okay. No, that's not it. This is it. Okay. All right. So let's go back to sharing that. Oh, wait, I selected the wrong one. Jesus Christ, don't mind me. Let me go back to this. Okay. So I need some serious help. He feels bad for my husband and my son. And then he says, he said, you have no time to visit my mother. It's too far. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. You don't work. Jesse goes to school and your nana is at most 20 minutes from your house. And this video is over 3 hours. Now, this is what's so funny. He's not even on the right video. The video that he's talking about that I did on the way home from my grandmother's house, if he would have watched the actual one, then he would have known how long it took me to get home, okay? This video was not that video. So he's on the wrong video. Second thing is, he's never been to my house. He's never been to my house once since I moved in here. Because he didn't come to any family functions. Because he wasn't talking to one of my aunts and uncles at the time. And their son. And so he didn't come to the family functions when they were invited. And so he has no idea where it is. But he proceeds to tell me that my son goes to school. She's 20 minutes away from... I'm 20 minutes away. So I go into Google Maps before, and I plug in my address, and I plug in my grandmother's address, and it says 30 minutes. And now we all know, tack on like another 10, 15 minutes to that because, you know, I live in New York, and there's always traffic, no matter what time of day you go. So I'm like, okay. And why does it even matter anyway? That's not why I wasn't complaining about, you know, the distance as much as that. Like, again, I told you guys at the beginning of this, there's several different reasons as to why it's hard for me to get there. Okay. So then he writes, the reason why you don't visit is because of all the drama that you created and continue to thrive in. So, all right. Here's the thing, okay? I did not create this drama. Again, I remind you guys, this guy didn't watch the video, so he has no idea what my side of the story is, okay? He didn't see all the text. He didn't see all the messages between me and my aunts. He didn't see any of that. So the fact that he's saying that I created the drama, all I did that day was when I left my grandmother's house, go on my live, okay? Because I don't have a mommy to call. I don't have a dad to call. My husband's at work. I'm not talking to my brother. So I went on a live and I was just venting, kind of just talking about what happened, okay? It's just bullshit. It really is. Sorry, I'm zooming in. Hold on. Why isn't this thing out on Zoom? Ugh. It's just total bullshit. It's total fucking bullshit. He is the one who put this on my video. So therefore, he's the one who created the drama. Him, my aunt, well, actually my aunt's the one that created it because, again, I have to remind you guys, I am blocked on all avenues by these people. So Why would I think that they were coming to my videos and watching them? I never share these videos on Facebook. I don't promote them in any way. I never told, anybody to go watch them or anything to that, to that extent. I've never done any of that stuff. So how is it that I'm the one creating the drama? It's just unbelievable. So then here he goes and he says, besides you desperately searching for validation, what is your actual purpose of doing this? First of all, if I'm searching for validation, I have a right to do that, and I don't see if why that's a bad thing, but okay. Um, I explained my reason several times for why I do this, and if he can't understand that, then that's his problem. Okay. See, these people are so narcissistic that they think my videos are only about them. They're not about them. They're about my life and what I went through, and they're just parts of it. It's my life, and I have a right to tell my story. And here's the other thing, okay? What's the difference between me telling my story and I use this as an example for him because he follows the band Kiss, and I'm like, I believe Gene Simmons it was that had a reality show about what? About his life, okay? If there's any Gene Simmons or any other Kiss members biographies out there, what is a biography? It's a story about somebody's life. So why am I mentally ill for sharing a story about my life? I don't understand that. I just don't understand it. It's disgusting that he would even say this. So then he asked me what's my purpose. And then he said that obviously won't mend fences. Dude, I am not looking to mend fences with these people. And again, if you watched my videos, then you would know that. You would know that I'm not looking to mend fences with any of them. So he's like, your constant rants now have changed the way I feel about you. Well, that's great because you know what? You're probably not going to treat me any differently because you really weren't talking to me before, when you felt the other way. So now that I guess, hate me, nothing's going to change for me, basically. Your feelings are going to change, but that's for you to deal with. In my life, nothing's going to change. I didn't hear from you anyway. Haven't seen you in months, years, sorry. So nothing in my life's going to change. But if you think that you're that important that I give a shit, I don't know what to say. Once again, shows how self-righteous you are, okay? So I think this is the rest of it, which we started to read, but we didn't. So then he writes, it changed the way he feels about me. Okay. He says, yes, that's right. You can now add Uncle PJ to your novels. First of all, these aren't novels, they're videos, but that's neither here nor there, right? So then he gets into this whole part about how my mom would feel and how she would be very disappointed by my antics, which again is another form of kind of gaslighting me because in reality, he didn't talk to my mom that much. I mean, out of all her siblings, I think she probably talked to him the least. And he has no idea how she would have felt because he wasn't there. He wouldn't have the conversations with me. And, do I think my mom would love these videos? No. But do I think she would understand why I'm doing them? Abso-fucking-lutely. And I absolutely know she would support me no matter what. And she would also love me unconditionally. So you have no right to tell me how you think my mom would feel. I'm the one who spent the most time with her. I'm the one who talked to her the most. So I think I would know a little better than you, but thanks. So he goes on to say that my grandmother talks about my mom all the time. Oh, you know what? Let me go back to that last sentence for a second there about my mom being disappointed because I had to ask him, I'm like, okay, you're looking at my antics, but like, how do you think my mom would feel that you guys are treating me like I'm some sort of fucking criminal and telling me I need to be supervised when I go into my grandmother's house? How do you think that would make my mom feel? How do you think my mom would feel that you're writing this under my video and you're basically calling me crazy and telling me I need help and that I'm a liar and that I don't work and I'm home, so I guess I'm a loser in his book and I have plenty of time. It's just like, I cannot fucking believe that this is what these people do. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But how do you think my mom would feel about this? How do you think my mom would feel that you haven't reached out to my son, sent him a birthday card or done anything to, help me or talk to me or communicate with me or my son or my husband in any way except for when you wanted something for the last 3 years. Okay? Because this is the uncle. Let me tell you guys a little story. Did I tell this already in this video? I don't even remember. Well, when my mom died, and I talk about this in the series, that when my mom died, and we finally got to the point that we were cleaning our house out, I was able to put my personal feelings aside because in my own heart, I really felt like fuck these people, fuck them. They haven't offered to help. They haven't offered anything. Why should I give these assholes anything from my mom's house? But out of the kindness of my heart, because I am able to put my own personal feelings aside in situations like these and think of the other person instead of myself, I was able to, say, you know what would my mom want? Well, before my mom passed away, I think she would want all her siblings to come and take something from her house. And so I put the offer out there to have each and every one of them come take something from the house, right? Well, none of them took me up on it, but he was the only one that took me up on it. And I'm like, wow, you know? So he came over to the house and, we walked around and he took a pretty decent amount of shit. He was like, oh, what are you doing with this vacuum? What are you doing with this steamer thing? Oh, did your mom has Fiesta ware? What are you doing with her plates? His wife is asking for the mugs and the plates for my mom's china and or whatever, her dishes set. And then he asked me for these shelves, okay? There were shelves in my mom's garage. They were pretty heavy duty shelves. And he asked me what we were doing with them. And, honestly, we probably were going to keep them there, if anything. But we weren't sure yet at that time. And they still had tons of shit on them. So I told him I'll let him know, in the next couple of months. I have to, talk to my brother about it, unfortunately. And I'll let you know, once we get them cleaned off. So in the next few months, as we waited for the contracts and everything and the closing, he reached out to me maybe 3 or 4 times, and of those 3 or 4 of those 3 or 4 times, all he did was ask me. It's just unbelievable. All he did was ask me about the shelves. That's all he did. He didn't care how I was doing, and he never once offered to come and help clean them off or anything of the sorts. He just called me up to ask me if he could still have the shelves. And so I put him off and I put him off. And then finally I decided, you know what, dude, I don't hear from you ever unless you want something. And you know what? I don't want to give you the shelves anymore. I don't hear from you. You don't ask me how I'm doing. You don't wish me a happy Mother's Day or call me for Easter or Christmas or, you know what? Fuck you. Fuck you. And I'm keeping the shelves for myself. I had enough. I gave you enough shit. Okay. And even the other aunts and uncles that declined, I gave them stuff again out of the, kindness of my heart. I went around my mom's house and tried to pick out meaningful items to give to them, that I think they would have liked, like good reminders of my mom. And so, these people don't know how to do that because the emotional maturity here is probably like that of a 6-year-old. It's unbelievable. So anyway, okay, so he asks me, let me finish this. Then he goes on to tell me there's no rules for your visit. I think I said that. She is your nana. I don't know what he means by ulterior motives. I literally went there that day to see my nana. That's the only reason I went there. What motive did I have? Like, it's just unbelievable. So he goes, I know that this family is not perfect. I've been through some serious shit. I'm not perfect. I'm sure your audience will find out if they didn't already know. Not really, because I really don't even talk about you in these. Because you, again, don't communicate with me unless you want something. So then he says, I'm not perfect. Oh, I'm sorry. But I chose to put it behind me, move forward, and forgive. This is the family that God chose for me, and I experienced a great life growing up with them. My recommendation to you is to knock off this bullshit, grow up, and concentrate on making yourself better for your family, the people that are currently still in your life. So again, I was pretty insulted by this because I was like, you don't even know what else is going on in my life. Like, how dare you um judge me on a 20-minute video that you see? That's my whole life. You're looking at like maybe an hour tops of my day. One day maybe once a week. And you're going to judge me based on videos? Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? It's just it's so insulting. So again, I just want to show you guys this because this is typical of gaslighters. And I'm going to show you guys, hold on, one more thing here. Um, just to people, the term gaslighting is thrown out there a lot, and I don't think a lot of people know exactly what it means or where it came from. So back in, I believe it was like the 30s, there was this movie called Gaslight, and basically it was a husband and wife, and the husband would basically keep the woman in the dark about things. Hold on, like literally keep her in the dark. So, hold on, let me just see. So I'm going to read this to you. It's from Wikipedia. I don't have it on the screen to show, but I'll read it to you. Okay. It says the term originates in the systematic psychological manipulation of a victim by her husband. I'm sorry, this is explaining the movie that the term came from. Okay. So it says the term originates in the systematic psychological manipulation of a victim by her husband in the 1938 stage play Gaslight and the film adaptations released in 1940 and 1944. In this story, the husband attempts to convince his wife and others that she is insane by manipulating small elements of their environment and insisting that she is mistaken, remembering things incorrectly, or delusional when she points out these changes. Okay, so basically, I know there was something. Oh, it tells you in the next thing. Okay, the play's title alludes to how the abusive husband slowly dims the gas lights in their home. So obviously, at that time, there was there was no electricity. It was just run by gas, the lighting in the home. So he says, while pretending that nothing has changed, in an effort to make his wife doubt her own perceptions. He further uses the lights in the sealed off attic to secretly search for jewels belonging to a woman whom he has murdered. He makes loud noises as he searches, including talking to himself. The wife repeatedly asks her husband to confirm her perceptions about the dimming lights, noises, and voices, but in defiance of reality, he keeps insisting that the lights are the same, and instead it is she who is going insane. He intends on having her assessed and committed to a mental institution, after which he will be able to gain power of attorney over her and search more effectively. So basically that's where the term comes from. Okay, it's basically somebody getting you to, in a nutshell, that's what it means. Somebody manipulating you into changing your perception of things and doubting your own reality, and your own sanity. And I had this done to me for so fucking long, so long, and it's so toxic and it's so abusive. um Sometimes I think people gaslight and they don't know necessarily that they're doing it, but it happens to everybody. Okay. We all get gaslit. We all gaslight sometimes too, and we don't realize it. But there's a fine line there. There's people that, manipulate on a regular basis. And those are the people who are the real gaslighters. Okay. So it's a manipulation tactic, and it's a very good one, to be honest with you, I guess, because it does work. I mean, there was times in the last, few years of my life that I really did sit here and go question my sanity. But once I became aware, and again, knowledge is power. You gain knowledge, you gain power when you know something, so that when you learn about gaslighting, right, you can now spot when it's being done to you. And so you could rise above it, and you could demand that, no, this is my perception. And it doesn't matter what you tell me. I know what I'm seeing. It gives you more confidence to know that you're right and that you're being gaslit. So I just want to show you guys a couple more things here about gaslighting. So here's 15. Well, you know what? I'm going to do this the opposite. Let me just switch this up here. Instead of showing you that, I will show you this first, and then I'll show you that. Okay. Let me just zoom it up a little bit. Okay. So basically, this is a image I found on Google that from a website that explains the habits of a gaslighter. 10 habits of a gaslighter. Okay. So it says number one, all bark and no bite. Gaslighters may say something, but act in a way that contradicts this statement. All right. And so my aunt is a great example of that because a year ago, she texted my husband when they first found these videos. They texted my husband and they told him, that he better get control of me because there's a lawsuit in the horizon, okay? And that their lawyer was going to be contacting us. Well, guess what? Here I am a year later. No lawyer has been contacted us, and it was just all bullshit. Again, another way to gaslight us and scare us and make me think that what I'm doing here is wrong and, crazy, okay? So we move on here slowly but surely. Gaslighters will wear victims down gradually over time with lies, comments, and other tactics. Okay. In this case, it's not being done slowly, but it is being done. And they are trying to wear me down. And, my aunt, it's crazy how this works because my aunt calls up her brothers and her sisters and then she gaslights them and then they gaslight whoever it is in turn. So again, my aunt is using, it's another great term here. She's basically using my uncles to triangulate between, her and I and our problems when it's really, it's not my uncles, it's her. And like, I want to look that up too. Let me show you guys what triangulation is because that's pretty important. Triangulation. These are all terms of manipulation and things like that. And I just think it's such an important thing for people to understand. So let me see. Hold on. Triangulation, narcissism. I'm not going to show you guys this on screen, but I will read it to you guys. Okay. So let me just see if I can find one that I like. Hold on. Okay, this is perfect right here. So it says triangulation. It says narcissist, but it could be any type of manipulative personality at the end of the day. So it says narcissists bring a third person into the mix many times without that other person knowing. It's also called abuse by proxy. Sometimes the narcissist will even have that third person contact us and pass along a message just to see our reaction. The narcissist wants to use another person to abuse us so that they can claim innocence. Triangulation is just a way for narcissists to maintain power and control over their targets. If that doesn't explain what my aunt did, I don't know what does. I don't know what does. So you guys see that? It's sick. It's fucking sick. So she used my first, the uncle that first got in contact with me and asked him, she literally asked him to convey a message to me. And that's exactly what this says here. Triangulation. Okay? It's fucking crazy. Hold on a second now. So let me go back to the other thing. Okay. So this is back to the habits of a gaslighter. Okay. So it says hitting close to home. Gaslighters may use things or people important to victims, family, friends, job, status as ammunition for coercion, and manipulation. And am I saying that right? I don't know why. I'm like having a brain fart when it comes to that. Let me read that again because I didn't do such a great job. Gaslighters may use things or people important to victims, and it says in parentheses, family, friends, job, status, as ammunition for coercion. God, why can't I say that? And manipulation. Coercion? Is that how you say it? I don't even know. I know what it is. Coerce. It means to coerce somebody. All right. So, perfect example, my grandmother. There you go. Hitting too close to home, telling me that, I can't go to my grandmother's house unsupervised and, blocking me from her Facebook page. These are all different things that they have used to gaslight me in more recent times. Okay. So number 4, it says denial ain't just a river in Egypt. And it says gaslighters might deny they ever said or did something, even if victims have proof. Okay. So once again, When my aunt called my husband, and my uncle said this actually in a second comment that he left that got deleted, that, I was telling lies and stretching the truth. And he even said it. He said it in the beginning that it's all bullshit. Everything I said was all bullshit in my videos. Meanwhile, if you watched my videos, I show proof. I back up pretty much everything I say in there. And if I'm giving an opinion, I let that known, be known. But facts are facts, and I show that in my videos. So there's no denying what happened in my videos. It's not all bullshit, but I'm being gaslit to think that it is. Okay. Then it says liar, liar. Gaslighters are likely to tell overt lies without the slightest sign of remorse or unease. And that is so true. That is so true. Just like my aunt, what did she lie about the other day? Oh, okay. For example, she lied to my uncle and told her that she has called me several times and that I don't answer. That's bullshit. And he probably believed it, but it's bullshit. And he even offered to print out my last 3 years of phone bills to prove her wrong. Okay. So number 6, perplexing positivity. Gaslighters tend to throw in occasional positive reinforcements or comments to confuse victims. My aunt used this again today when she was talking to my husband because, she went into the whole, I miss Liana. I miss Jesse. I would have taken on a grandmother role. She went into this whole fucking thing like, yeah, okay, we believe you, girl. We believe you, girl. When in fact, all right, okay. So then we got number 8, turning others against you. This is huge for my aunt. What better way to alienate a victim than to turn their allies against them? The expert gaslighter capitalizes on this to the utmost degree. And it's so funny because out of all of them, that is probably the biggest one and explains my aunt the best because this is exactly what she did. She knows that my 2 uncles were still cool with me, right? It's not that I had a relationship with them, either one of them really, or ever heard from them, but we also didn't have any beef. And, I was still friends with them on Facebook and I had, I guess, that kind of relationship with them at least. And, the door was open for communication. And so what she did was, she sent out this group message, text message to all those siblings, all my mom's siblings. And then she actually called the oldest one because he has, I guess, stuck up for me in the past. And so, she tried to turn him against me and it kind of worked. I mean, because he wrote to me yesterday too. And now the younger brother, he has never had a problem with me this whole time. And now he's all angry with me. And so she does this all the time. There's no difference. And then they contact my husband, right? Because they're too cowardly to contact me. They contact my husband and they tell him, it's just disgusting. They try to get him involved. My aunt even said it in the text message. She's like, I thought you should be aware of this. First of all, you don't know my relationship because of course my husband knows what's going on in my life. But second of all, I mean, why are you telling him? If you think he doesn't know, why is it your place to tell him when you don't even talk to him? So why would you tell him? You're just trying to, what are you trying to get him mad at me too? So this one, this one's the biggest one. She did this many, many times. Watch my series and you'll see. Okay. So then she writes, then it says, everyone is a liar except me. So it says, from friends to family to the media, the gaslighter will tell victims that no one could be trusted except them. And again, she does that all the time. She tells, everybody, I was the closest with Carol. I know how she feels. You weren't around as much. She wrote that in those messages. If they're on one of my last videos that I showed, that it was in the fucking messages. She's like, you weren't there as much. You don't know as much as me. I lived it with Carol. And meanwhile, that's bullshit. Well, she did live it in a sense, but to tell other people that they don't know as much. My mom told everybody everything. She was kind of like me in that sense. Okay. Okay. So number 10, you're crazy. There you go. There you go. Gaslighters have no qualms about accusing you or those things. Gaslighters have no qualms about accusing you or those in your life of losing sanity. They do this to instill self-doubt and even psychosis. Okay. So again, if they were really concerned about me and really thought I was crazy, this is not the way to go about telling me that you think that, there's no, concern or compassion or understanding. You're basically just saying it to get me angry. And that's pretty sick if you really think about it. I can't believe I just read that. That was probably one of the best ones I ever read in reference to her because it really, really fits with her. And so, when I was reading my uncle's comment the first time, I'm thinking to myself, God, man, this sounds exactly like what my aunt said to me. All of it, the whole entire thing, every statement that was made sounded identical to what she says about me. And I've heard her say, and I have texts of her saying to me in the past. It's just like, it's fucking mind boggling. Okay. So then, hold on. Okay. So I want to look at this, and I think this is the last one we're going to look at. Hold on, I gotta find it so I can zoom in for you guys a little bit. Where is it? Hold on, that's not it. Don't believe that's it. Oop, that's not it either. That's not it. Where'd it go? That's weird. Okay, here it is. Okay, let me just zoom in into this one a little tad bit. Stretch it out for you guys so you can see what it says on your own. So it says 15 signs you're a victim of gaslighting. And now I am a victim of gaslighting, but I'm an informed victim of gaslighting. So I feel like these don't necessarily apply to me because I know what gaslighting is and I know how to recognize the symptoms. But if you don't recognize what it is, and it's you guys out there, because I feel like it's really important to not only know, okay, give me examples of gaslighting and what gaslighting is, it's also really important to understand how you're going to react to it, and what you're going to do when you are gaslit, because the two go together and, it'll help you recognize it a little bit better. So we got 15 signs you're a victim of gaslighting. So it says, you've stopped trusting in your own judgments because you're made to feel as though you're too sensitive or misguided. And this was a very common one for me back at the time, before my mom went into the hospital and all that stuff, my aunts just constantly gaslit me. I mean, they would tell me you're crazy, you're focusing on the wrong stuff, you shouldn't even worry about that, focus on this, not that. Like they had, they would constantly tell me. And so at a certain point in time, I did start thinking it's me. With my brother and his wife. Like I would say something about my brother and wife, and his wife and how they were acting and how they didn't come around and how it's really hard because I don't have any help with my mom. And then they would gaslight me and tell me, that, men just don't help as much, or, they would say all these stupid excuses for him or whatever. And then I would sit around feeling like, okay, well, I mean, maybe it's me then, maybe it's me. I don't know. But in reality, when I finally did go see it, I did see a counselor for a long time. I realized that it wasn't me, and that I was being gaslit when they were saying things like that. Okay. So here's number 2. You're afraid of speaking up or expressing how you feel, so you stay silent. So that's a huge one if you really think about it, because, when somebody's always trying to knock you down and, tell you that, you're seeing things or you're imagining things or this isn't real or that isn't what happened, you start to question yourself and you're like, you know what? I don't even want to talk anymore because I feel like when I do talk, all I'm doing is being invalidated. So why even bother talking? And that's really sad. People shouldn't have to feel like that. And that's what they're trying to do to me. That's what they're trying to do to me right now is that, they're telling me I'm crazy. And, my uncle even left another comment, and I'm not even going to bother reading all of them. I felt like that one was long enough to, we had a little back and forth on Messenger. But I feel like that one was enough to get the point across with the gaslighting. But there was other things said to gaslight me, and it's just, I forgot my whole train of thought again. But you know what I'm saying. They were gaslighting me, basically. He's trying to basically get me to stop making the videos, to shut up and, doubt my subscribers. And, he was even like kind of, picking on YouTube or, and saying like, oh, a bunch of strangers, like, that it's not real. It's not a real world. He told me, And I'm like, well, it is real to me because I've connected with so many of you guys that follow this channel, maybe not just for this series, but all you guys that, follow my channel and all my videos. And I've made very close friendships with people. Yeah, we don't get to get together and go out to lunch and shit, but we do talk and we share, things about our lives, and we talk about grief, and we talk about our experiences with our families and what happened and what we went through. And it's basically like a giant support group. But because, they're too stupid to understand that, you're going to make me think that it's fake and made up and it's not what I think it is, and again, gaslight me. Okay. Okay. So number 3, this was a huge one, and it's kind of the same as number 1, but I guess a little different, but this is huge. And this was a really, really big one for me. It says number 3, you feel as though you're crazy. You feel as though you're going crazy and like there's something fundamentally wrong with you. I felt like that for such a long time. I can't even tell you guys. I really, really started to come down on myself. And you know what? In a sense, I guess it was a good thing because I really started to look into myself and be like, okay, Leanna, how are you contributing to all of this? How are you the person that's making things worse? And how are you adding to it? And what toxic behaviors do you carry from, all of this, like from your family that you've learned and that you now use? So, but I did actually start to think I was like crazy. Like I really started to question, like, am I crazy? Like, is it just me? Like, do I need to go get help? Like, I really, really, really thought there was something wrong with me. And, I did go get help because I felt like no matter what, you know, you could always benefit from talking to somebody, right? You don't have anything to lose by going and seeking out help for yourself. Whether you're, really bad or just, you just have regular life problems. I mean, it couldn't hurt. But it's a horrible feeling to feel like there's something wrong with me, and maybe it's me, and all these other people are just perfect, and I'm fucked up, and whatever. You start really feeling like that, and it's a really, really horrible feeling. I don't feel like that anymore, again, because I'm informed. Knowledge is power, and I know that I'm not crazy. I set up healthy boundaries with these people, and they don't respect them. And it's not me because, I didn't start this. They did. Okay. So number 4, you always second guess your ability to remember details of a situation, leaving you psychologically powerless. This never really happened to me, but I do know it happens to a lot of people. My mom being one of them. Things would happen, and then people would, her sisters especially would gaslight her, and then she would hang up with them on the phone, and then she would call me up and she would start, saying, Leanna, do you think I'm this? Do you think I'm being too much? Do you think I'm, overly sensitive? Do you think I'm this? And she did. She started to, second guess, like maybe I didn't remember things right, or maybe, it's like crazy. Your ability to remember details. So that's definitely it. Okay. Number 5, you feel the need to apologize all the time for what you do or who you are. I definitely would say that this was something I personally experienced. Whenever I asserted myself with my family, during the time when my mom was feeling sick, I mean, not feeling sick, she was sick. I would write them these things, and actually the first letter I actually wrote to my aunts to try to reach out for some type of help with my mom. I sat there apologizing like as if I was being mean to them, and then I really believed that I believed it was like my fault and I was whatever. And I went back months later and I read the same letter and I was like, dude, this letter is not what I've even convinced myself it is, because they told everybody that I had written them this like really nasty letter. And the original letter that I wrote reaching out to, one of my aunts, and then I just included the other one, that letter sounded like a person who was just desperate to do anything that they could to help their mother, and that they were in like a dire situation, and they really were reaching out for help and being, ignored. And, it's a really horrible feeling. So number 6, You frequently feel confused and disoriented. Okay. So again, just another way that you're gonna feel, you're gonna feel confused about things and doubting yourself and your perceptions and did this really happen or did I really say that or that's the result. You almost get paranoid, and start thinking all these different things that aren't even happening. So that's you know I think this is just important for people to know because it does happen to everybody. We all experience gaslighting to some degree in our lives. And it's an important thing to recognize, because you need to be able to stand up for yourself and know the difference between fact and gaslighting. So, with that said, I'm going to end this one because it's already an hour long and I hope you guys enjoy it. I was going to make it a live video. I just decided not to because I didn't want to get too distracted. It's bad enough I have ADD and I get distracted by my own self and my own shit. I didn't want to be distracted by the chat. So feel free to leave a comment below, ask any questions you want, or, just hit the like button on the way out. And I will see you guys in the next one.